Consciousness is the ultimate creator. So things get created through consciousness as a vehicle, if you like. Without consciousness, nothing happens.
Welcome to a live interview with my teacher, Konstantin Pavlidis. And Professor Konstantin is the creator and founder of SciMed platform and Oracy Center, am I correct?
Yes.
And he is also a scientist, an artist, and a spiritual master. And Professor Konstantin Pavlidis his background is very, very rich and with direct lineage to masters and healers, where he was taught from the early age of 6. Now, since then, he has mastered many areas of science, movement, mastery, spiritual practices, self-development, and many other high-level disciplines. And there's a quote that I found online, and it's his original quote by Professor here, and he says, "Consciousness conceives, the senses receives. Our left brain perceives and then deceives us through its interpretation." So let's start off with this question. Teacher, Professor, what does that mean? What is consciousness? What does it mean by consciousness conceived, the senses receives, our left brain perceives and then deceives us through its interpretation?
So, for thousands of years, the wisdom traditions have been speaking about consciousness being the foundation of all being. More or less translates from Vedanta as the ground of all being, of all existence is what it means, what that refers to. And lately, let's just say over the past 40 to 50 years, through the insights that we have been able to gather as a result of both experimental data and the mathematics through quantum physics, they are basically agreeing with this same premise. Consciousness is the ultimate creator. So things get created through consciousness as a vehicle, if you like. Without consciousness, nothing happens. So I call it spontaneous creativity. It is happening constantly. Some people could call its abode the source. So the source uses consciousness to create. So creator creates creation. That's the resultant, the result of what creator creates. And the process in between is called creativity. Right. So we have creator, creation, that process is creativity. So consciousness is creativity in action. So consciousness, in order for it to perhaps rhyme, but I say it conceives of something. And then when it acts upon a living organism, let's take a human being, that organism receives through the senses, because that's the physical part. Yes. The senses, seeing, hearing, smelling, etc., tasting, then send through the nervous system that particular impulse, those signals, and they become then perceived in the brain. Consciousness conceives, physical body receives, sends it to the brain, which then perceives, and through its interpretation deceives us by creating an illusion, an interpretation of what has just happened. Because most things are actually 2D, the left brain creates the third dimension in terms of what's there in front of you. Right. So that is what I mean by that. And everyone has a perception mostly based on foundation, what I call mother programs that have taken place from the time we are even conceived in the conception process, when the two cells become one, sperm and egg. Depending on what the mother is experiencing throughout the course of the pregnancy, that is what is being input to that particular embryo. We know this through epigenetics. So if the mother is having a positive, happy, easy, harmonic time, then the embryo is not so disturbed and will pick up, or let's just say will be in an environment, because the mother is a host. The body, the physical body, is the host for the embryo, for the egg to grow. Yeah. But if the mother's having a hard time and she is suffering in any way, shape or form as a result of physical ailment or environmental impacts, or even difficulties with the father or family members, etc., that is also impacting the developing embryo.
Right.
And the moment the embryo is born, it goes out of an aqueous medium, which is basically almost gravityless, but let's say very, very well supported by comparison to being in gravity. Part of the shock of why the child normally cries is because I'm out of this happy sort of, swimming pool, tub, whatever, and I'm in this heavy environment. And especially if you've got, nowadays, loads of electromagnetic frequencies, radio waves and whatever all over, it's a shock to the system, literally. So interpretation is what I meant by consciousness conceives, physical body receives, the brain perceives and creates interpretations of what it's picking up. And then it deceives us into thinking and believing the illusion that's in front of us, meaning that what it is that the brain creates is not exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah.
This brings us to another level.
Yes.
It's a very significant level.